We are so pleased to welcome you to this webinar today. We have just a few housekeeping items to go over. You'll be sent a survey after this presentation, so we encourage you to fill that out, and we really appreciate your feedback. Also, this webinar is being recorded, and we will send you the recorded link within a week. You all are being muted right now, so please keep your mute buttons on during this presentation. However, when you get to a breakout room session, you are going to be allowed to unmute yourself. We also want to encourage you to use the chat to submit any questions you have during the presentation. Our chat moderator for today is Hallie Nicholson. She will be collecting and curating your questions throughout the presentation, and at the end, we'll ask her to read some of your questions on your behalf. So what we're going to do is something a little different. We're going to introduce each other.
So I would love to introduce Melanie Robertson. This is Marie Logan, by the way, from UC Santa Cruz, but Melanie will be introducing me in a moment. So Melanie Robertson is a senior strategy and innovation analyst at UC San Diego, and she serves as the program manager for the campus's ideation tool and program called IdeaWave. Those at UC Santa Cruz are probably not quite as familiar with that. So if you're interested, go have a look at their website. It's a really neat tool. She's an expert in innovation management and consults and advises groups on campus as well as externally. Also on how to achieve and implement business and innovation goals. Melanie has worked in higher education since 2008 in various capacities and enjoys designing and engaging groups for events of any size. She earned her MBA in 2013 and a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt certification in 2016. A random fact that people might not expect is that her favorite book genre is science fiction, and she has many good recommendations if you'd like some.
Thanks so much, Marie. So now it's my pleasure to introduce my co-presenter today, Marie Logan, who is the Director of Operations and Strategic Initiatives in the Business and Administrative Services Division at UC Santa Cruz. She has worked in higher education in many roles in addition to her current one. She was the Director of Corporate and Foundation Relations in the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts at the University of Michigan, and she has served as Assistant Dean twice, once at the University of Michigan School of Natural Resources and Environment, and again at the UC Santa Cruz in Social Sciences. Marie has led many cross-functional simplification and change management efforts. She teaches on the topics of lean thinking and liberating structures. Marie is a member of the International Professional Organization, NCCI, which is a national network and stands for Network for Change and Continuous Innovation, and has served on both the professional development and membership and outreach committees. Also, Marie is currently pursuing a master's level academic certification program in executive and professional coaching at the University of Texas at Dallas.
Thanks, Melanie.
All right, so we're going to go over our agenda real quick for the next hour or so. We will have some learning objectives that we'll go over and some very brief virtual meeting instructions. Then we'll go on to our first activity, which will be the first liberating structure, impromptu networking, followed by just a baseline understanding of liberating structures in case you've never heard of them before, and some resources that you can get, as well as the Triz activity, which is another liberating structure. Then we will follow that up with a few of Marie's and my lessons learned over the years of using liberating structures, and then we will wrap up with questions. So feel free to put your questions into the chat at any point, and again, Hallie will be curating those and collecting them throughout the presentation. But first, we want to connect the dots for you, if you will. Marie and I actually presented a version of this webinar last year to NCCI, and it primarily focused on introducing liberating structures and experiencing how they can be modified for a virtual environment with a little preparation and some creativity. Here we are a year later, and we know that given the state of universities and businesses right now and the uncertainty that we all face, it may be more important than ever to understand how liberating structures can help.
You know, we're all seeking to be as effective as possible in this new world of COVID-19, where we actually don't work face-to-face. And most of us are now working remotely, And you can tell by our hair because we're like not getting our hair cut. And we might even be managing our employees remotely and deal with shifting expectations around trust and teamwork. The business world has been doing this for a really long time, and so it's definitely possible.
Yeah, and we're faced with questions about how to continue to engage with clients and work productivity. Huge amounts of helpful resources are hoisted on us, or we actively seek them out because we're trying to figure out situations and problem solve in an environment that looks different than a year ago. Just your presence here in this webinar indicates that you understand the changing landscape and are adjusting and adapting.
So we're thinking that due to this new reality, we decided that it was time to rework and reframe this webinar to address these new challenges. Today is just an introduction though, and we encourage you to learn what you can and then partner with colleagues who you know to practice. So be brave. We really encourage you to be brave, and your efforts to explore the magic of liberating structures are going to pay high dividends, we promise. It's forever going to change the way that you do group work. We didn't learn it alone, and so we're all in this together.
Great, thank you, Marie. All right, we're gonna move on to our learning objectives. We'd like you to be able to identify opportunities for more engaging meetings and group work. We'd like you to be able to participate in the liberating structures that we're doing today and learn how to deploy and assemble them on your own. And then also build confidence in your ability to design and conduct engaging group work in the virtual environment. Here are some basic Zoom instructions that we'll go over real quickly. We will be using chat today primarily. So if you open your chat window, there is a icon at the bottom of your screen. Just kind of put that chat box off to the side in a convenient location. And whenever you see this icon on a slide, that does indicate that we're asking you to enter something into the chat. And then we'll read some of those as we go. Here are the instructions for the first activity, which we will be using breakout rooms. You're going to be assigned to a breakout room where you'll join a small group of other participants. This may be 1 or 2 other people. And we are going to have a conversation about a topic. So we're looking for you to see that question in the top banner of your breakout room. Sometimes this works. We've seen experience where it doesn't work, so we will also include it in the chat, the question for you to discuss in the chat as well. Be sure to unmute yourself, turn your video on if you can. You will receive a notice 60 seconds before the breakout room session ends. I think we've adjusted that to be about 30 seconds. So if you get pulled back in automatically to the main room, that is because we are trying to bring everyone back to start the rest of the presentation. So let's get started. When you get to your breakout rooms, be sure to introduce yourself. The breakout rooms and the questions that you'll be discussing in there will be about 5 minutes. Take turns speaking, and then don't forget to unmute yourself.
So we're going to be asking that you discuss this question. In light of working virtually, what is a bright spot in the actual work that you are doing right now? So not just about being at home working virtually, but in the work that you're doing right now.
All right, so at this point, we wanted to ask you to share in the chat a common theme or fact from your networking conversation about the bright spots in your work right now. What did you hear? More time for learning, helping those in need, people coming together for the wonderful. Yes.
Oh, I love this. Having time to be innovative.
Yes.
And productive.
I know I've noticed that there's more time for kind of those back burner projects right now. Maybe we've been putting off a little bit. More
getting to know a different aspect of your coworkers.
Wonderful. online learning and uninterrupted time for projects.
Hoping for better family-friendly policies in the future.
Equalizing quality.
Sorry, you go ahead. I was just going to say that one too. That's a great one.
Equalizing quality to video conferencing allows introverts to feel heard. Oh, great. Yes.
And I love this online learning and uninterrupted time for projects. That's perfect.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, so that was impromptu networking. We're going to go on to the next slide. And that was our first Liberating Structures. So congratulations. It is called impromptu networking. And the goal of impromptu networking is to get to know one another and create rapport among participants rather quickly. As you may have noticed, it is a structured activity, meaning that it includes a certain number of steps that we followed, including asking a specific question to get you to engage with each other. You would use this liberating structure to spark those deeper connections when groups are starting to work together, or to connect people who don't usually work together. It is considered a great way to start a productive pattern of engagement.
So how does group work? You know, in the old days, we got together in conference rooms. Remember those days? You know, now we Zoom, and sometimes it's boring and sometimes it's not all that engaging, and it can even be chaotic and ineffective. So all of those traditional ways that we normally would have interacted with each other, they actually carry over into the virtual realm as well. So let's think about this. Presentations. Here we have a person giving a presentation in a conference room. And now we've got the Brady Bunch going on over here. And what happens? You've got this person when it's just a presentation. I am so bored. When is lunch? And then you have managed discussions. So you got this person at the front of the conference room table, and she's presenting, but she's kind of managing a conversation between everybody. But she says, I've called this meeting to discuss a decision I've already made. And then you've got status updates. This is my favorite. Look at this huge conference room. Let's go around and share updates. Oh, just my favorite. And then you've got that person who says, well, they're thinking, I haven't accomplished anything since the last time we met, but I can talk for 5 minutes. Nightmare. Then brainstorming. Brainstorming, this looks kind of fun, doesn't it, since we're not able to do that right now. At the same time, you've got the person who's kind of introverted, sort of quiet, prefers really not to speak. And they're saying, well, I can't think of anything. Maybe they'll just forget about me if I don't say anything. And then we have open discussions. I don't know who saw this Saturday Night Live Zoom parody, but it was pretty funny. Total open discussion, kind of crazy, not super organized. What the authors of this book call that is a goat rodeo. As you can imagine, goats running all over, being not terribly well organized, just kind of doing their own thing. That is not the most effective way to have groups get work done, for sure. We really need some kind of structure to create success in our group work. So we're wanting to teach you about liberating structures because this really gives you some structure, some scaffolding that you can use to build your interactions. They need to be well structured, especially in the virtual realm, because what is happening on the other end of the phone line or the computer connection? You've got people who are getting bored and they're multitasking with a ton of different things, or they're dealing with, right now, their families and pets and all sorts of things, making it kind of difficult to be able to focus. But that really causes a lot of stress, and it also makes it not very effective. So we're going to help you learn how to engage people. So can you relate to that feeling of just like something is so boring and you're like, I just can't help myself. I've got to go do some email because I mean, I'll at least get something else done. part of what we're trying to do here today is help teach you some different ways that you can engage people. So I want to show you something, if you haven't discovered it before, it's right here in the Zoom app. So all you need to do is click on participants down at the bottom in the little black strip, and then click on more. And then you're going to get the opportunity to choose one of these nonverbal feedback icons. And you can use this anytime in a meeting. So I'd like to invite you to do that now. Can you relate to that feeling of just like, I can't help myself, I've got to just multitask?
So we're seeing a lot of thumbs up, some claps, somebody who needs to take a coffee break, apparently.
Good. Good. Well, hopefully, you know, that's a really super quick, easy one that you can do, and just keep people on their toes. Encourage them to participate. So the goal of Liberating Structures is really this idea of encouraging people to contribute their ideas, be creative, and make those contributions to shaping the future. These two authors of the book are really interesting. They, I want to say that what Liberating Structures is actually about is based on a lot of research. There's something called complex organizational systems and complexity thinking. And that's what these two people study. And they decided that they really wanted to make this sort of more accessible to the world and make it so that, you know, people could gain access and be more effective. So that's really where this came from. You can get this book that they wrote, The Surprising Power of Liberating Structures. It's available on Amazon.com easily. At the same time, you actually don't have to, because they also created this awesome website. So all you just go to liberatingstructures.com. And I'm going to tell you a little more about the website, but I'm just going to mention at this point that there's also an app, and then we'll talk about the app in a little bit too. Just go to you know, the Apple Store or the App Store or Google Play, and that will let you find that. And again, it's just called Liberating Structures. It looks like this on the first screen, and it's free. So on the website, if you go to the Liberating Structures menu, you'll see this grid. And this shows you all of the different liberating structures that are currently really well defined. There's a whole bunch that are also in development, and you can gain access to those on the website as well. Each one has a different goal. So if you, well, Melanie will be talking a little bit more later about kind of the variety of different ones and what they do and how you might use them. And then we'll be doing a couple today, as you know. So just to know that these are there, you can click on any of them and learn about them. And they're really about, you know, engaging people and achieving goals. So on the app, this is what it looks like. You first click, you know, get the app. When you click on it just to start, you'll get this first page, which is your filter. And you just decide how long you have to devote to this activity, and then what you're trying to do. Are you trying to actually analyze something or strategize, or are you trying to get ideas, spread ideas, or improve something? Once you do that and apply it, it's actually going to give you an exact list of the things that meet your criteria. It's very cool. So you don't have to guess. And you'll know after you start using them, you'll know which one to pick. But in the beginning, I remember it's kind of confusing. There's just so many. And a lot of them will kind of do the same thing, similar thing. And so you'll want to read into it and see which one best fits your goal. So here's an example of the detail that you get. You know, what is actually made possible by doing this liberating structure? Which, you know, how do you do it? What is the invitation and what is it about? And then all of the pieces of it. And I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about all the different pieces that make up each activity. And this is just a quick note to show that this is from their website, and this is the current world map of self-identified users. This has been around for a while. This is not a brand new idea, but there's people all over the world using it. And Melanie and I are down there in California boxes. You can't see us, of course, but we've both self-identified. So people can reach out to each other that way as well. So this is what I was alluding to earlier. There are 5 design elements to every liberating structure, both liberating structures and those other ones that we talked about earlier, those different ways that people engage. So there is an invitation, there is virtual space in this realm that we're in right now. There's participation that you need to distribute. You need to configure your groups, and then you allocate time and your sequence of steps of how you're going to get this thing done. So let's look at an example. If you were doing a lecture or presentation and you were looking at it through this filter, your invitation would be, hey, listen to me. The virtual space would be Zoom and slides. The participation would be pretty much 98% just the presenter participating. Then groups, it's one group and one presenter when you've got a lecture or presentation. Your time and sequence of steps is presentation and hopefully Q&A at the end. Now for impromptu networking, which you just experienced, the invitation was ask some questions of each other. Virtual, and we defined what those questions were. The virtual space was Zoom, slides, and breakout rooms so that you could have that space to have a conversation. The participation was, you could do this with any group size and everybody has an equal chance to contribute. You can configure groups, and that in this way, this is pairs for impromptu networking. And then the time and sequence of steps was about 2 minutes per person. And if we could detail that a bit more, but just that's the basic idea. So we want to help you think about how are you going to learn these things. First, you will always have to clarify your purpose. So when I say clarify purpose, that's the same as what I was saying before. What is your goal of your meeting? You know, what am I trying to accomplish? If I was going to write an agenda and hope that you know, this meeting was going to be successful, at the end of the meeting, what was my objective and what do I want to have happened? You then choose your liberating structure. You can use that app, is probably the easiest way, and then plan your design elements. Then just try it. And we recommend just doing it by the book to start with, because at first it can be a little bit confusing, but once you get it down, you can totally ad lib. And they even give you recommendations. They call it riffs and variations. And then debrief next steps. Ideally, doing that with a partner is great because it gives you a chance to get that feedback. And then build on those lessons learned and just try again. So what's really, really awesome about this is that the reason they have such an extensive website is that they really want to make this available. They want people to use it. So it's made available through this Creative Commons license, which is a non-commercial share and share alike kind of license. You also need to give attribution to it. So you can use them, you can share them, just make sure that you don't actually sell them. That's the key.
Great, thanks, Marie. You can absolutely use every single one of these liberating structures. And I don't think it's been mentioned yet, but there are 33 liberating structures on the website and then 11 more in development. We thought that we would outline some of the more basic ones, moderate ones, and complex ones for you. But some of these are a little more simple and easy to use immediately. And others take a little more practice and are slightly more complex in terms of the number of steps or the design elements that are included in them. So we just sort of picked, we think that 1, 2, 4 all is probably the most basic of the liberating structures, and you just read over those steps and you can put them into practice, put it into practice for your group work pretty quickly. Also 15% solutions and what, so what, now what are more on the basic side, whereas moderate ones might be Triz, 2510 crowdsourcing, and Troika consulting. And then complex, where there's quite a few steps, takes a little bit longer. Typically we see that instructions need to be repeated on this, or there's a series of instructions that go along with it. So this would be eco-cycle planning, agreement certainty matrix, and MAD-T with strategy Safari. When you link 2 or more liberating structures together, this is called stringing, and it can be very effective if you have multi-tiered goals. For example, the string on this slide, it's the most simple one, just two. It's suggesting that you could use 1, 2, 4 all to quickly engage each person in simultaneously generating questions or ideas, and then take those ideas, string it together with 15% solutions, which is intended to discover and focus on what each person can do to further those ideas right now. This one actually helps build momentum by focusing on what you can do rather than the challenges and things that we can't do. So I've seen this work, if you just go back, I've seen this work within approximately 30 minutes. You could have not only a list of ideas, but also a list of actions that can be executed right now. This string is slightly longer, and it just is supposed to give you an idea of how you might build a string for a specific purpose, such as a department retreat. So starting with impromptu networking to rapidly share expectations for the day, and then moving on to 25-10 crowdsourcing, which could be used to generate and sift through ideas for a specific departmental focus or a departmental challenge. And then take those ideas and see if you can use Troika Consulting to provide each other with practical help, maybe on how to move them forward. And then wrap up the day with a review of progress with what, so what, now what. Okay, so we're gonna try another one. This one is Triz. And the point of Triz is actually to stop counterproductive activities and behaviors to make space for innovation. So we'd like you to remind you about the breakout rooms. When you get to your breakout room, which again is supposed to be around 2 to 3 people in each breakout room, you would introduce yourself. They're gonna last 5 minutes. Your question will be on the banner or in the chat. Take turns speaking and don't forget to unmute yourself. The invitation for this Triz activity is the following question. Given COVID-19 and our need to continue serving our clients, how can we ensure that we fail? So think about your customers. We'll give you about a minute on your own before we send you to the breakout rooms. How can you ensure failure? Okay, I think we have everyone back. So we can go on to the next slide. As you can see, there's a chat icon here. So in the chat, we'd like you to share your ideas for ensuring failure while serving our clients and partners. What did you discuss in your breakout rooms? Not being willing to adapt, no planning, perfect ways to fail.
No communicating.
Losing perspective.
Oh, that's a good one. Not listening to your customers.
Placing blame.
Oh, check out, being checked out and burned out.
Lack of compassion and understanding.
Not understanding changes, not showing up.
Trying to do things with unnecessary urgency and putting out fires on the other end rather than taking time up front.
Yeah, and there's a couple there about not responding in a timely way.
We're ignoring opportunities. All right.
These are good ones.
Yep. Perfect.
Oh, I love that one. Trying to do things the way they used to be done.
Yeah. That really speaks to the adaptation piece, right? Not adapting.
And if nothing else, Liberating Structures is all about being adaptive. Excellent.
Okay, so this is a variation on Triz, obviously, in the virtual environment. So what we did was we asked you to think of ideas on how you could fail. And then we asked you to share those things in the chat. And now ask yourself, you don't have to share this in the chat, but ask yourself whether there are any of these things on this list that you're currently observing at your institution. And what you would do with that information in a regular setting where you're using Triz might be to make a list of those things, check them off if you see them, if you're currently observing them, and then make plans for how to stop doing those things. That would be the next step for this. So you would use Triz, and this particular liberating structure is used to help a group let go of what limits its success. And what it does is it effectively clears space for innovation, inviting what is called creative destruction. Triz makes it possible to challenge what they call sacred cows, and it's done in a safe way, and it encourages innovative thinking. We typically would see fun and funny conversations, but also very courageous conversations come out of this.
Definitely. So we'd love to share some lessons learned with you as you begin your journey. So we each provided a quote here that kind of summarizes the thing that we felt was the most important about learning liberating structures. I will say, as I said earlier, that it has completely changed the way I approach group work, both in person and in the virtual environment. And I think that what I learned is that using liberating structures virtually, or really even just having any kind of group meeting virtually, you really have to keep it simple. So while it can be really appealing to try to plan this, ambitious, interesting, amazing meeting, you can easily fail when it comes to technology and all sorts of things like that. It just gets complex really fast. So let me just use a quick example. In the early days, when I've been doing this for years, but in the early days, I thought, oh, I just really want to do this thing with shared Google documents, and I'm going to give everybody, permission to all those Google documents. And then I'm going to have them chat on the Google document with each other because they're still on the meeting, so they can't actually chat. And they were, anyway, it did not work because people were just not really able to deal with that. Like, they didn't know how to chat on a document. Many of us don't, where's that little icon there? And it stressed people out so much they just hung up and they stopped participating. So that was unfortunate. And I feel like it's just really, you can't keep it simple enough. At the same time, you want to engage them. So that's the challenge. Melanie and I also were doing an all-day session at a national conference. We actually did this twice, but at one of them, we got super ambitious and we had 2 different rooms. We had people in both rooms and we simulated this remote meeting, and we had the wonderful people at the CSU Chancellor's office helped us get everything together IT wise. And we thought it was going to be awesome. And it turned out that everybody couldn't sign on the network at the same time at this hotel. It just overwhelmed the network as you got all those devices trying to sign on. That was a big problem, and I could go on, but we learned a lot in that. And so I just always remember, keep it simple.
Yes, we definitely learned a lot from that conference and modified for our next presentation that we did. My quote actually has to do with the lessons I've learned about proper planning and preparation. And a recent example I'd like to share that is for a more complex liberating structure. It's called critical uncertainties. Some of the basic liberating structures will not take as much time for preparation. So this is an extreme example, keep that in mind. But it is important to practice and plan ahead no matter what liberating structure you're attempting to use in the virtual environment. But what I recently experienced with critical uncertainties was a colleague of mine, Kristen Keelick, who is a very gifted facilitator and does a lot of strategic planning for our campus units at UCSD, came across critical uncertainties and wanted to see if we could use it for clients in a virtual environment, given our current situation. So it took several pre-meetings just to try it out with just the 3 of us, make sure she had the steps down, gauge how we reacted to the questions and steps before taking it to our department as a proof of concept to actually work through. And that's even before offering it to a client. I cannot stress how much at least some preparation and planning ahead can really help ensure success. And that's why we really talk about using it with a partner and getting that feedback. And that's how important it is when executing on these liberating structures in the virtual environment to make sure you practice.
But it'll be worth it. It'll so be worth it because you'll end up with a really successful event.
Absolutely. So now we'd like to ask you, as you can see the chat icon there, in the chat, share the next step or action you're inspired to take after this webinar today. Be bold. I'm inspired to talk to my supervisor about liberating structures and implementing in our next meeting. Great.
Oh, excellent. And applying this to post-COVID recovery planning.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Test out in the virtual birthday party. That's a great idea. These aren't just for work. This can be used for any group activity. The book talks about that.
It's used in all different industries as well.
Yep.
So it's very adaptable. Oh, someone has a coworker who took the class and they want to connect with that person. Awesome.
Add one to all into your next huddle. Great. Use liberating structures to ensure that staff and participants are heard in the planning for return to in-person work. Perfect.
Try Triz in their procurement team's charter development meetings.
Nice. Incorporate more opportunities for participation. Yeah, because that's what this really is about, is, you know, engaging all voices.
I loved Triz for the COVID response meeting. That could end up with some really interesting responses.
Mm-hmm.
So I did see one fly by that I didn't get a chance to say because it was a little bit longer, but it was about trying to make sure that you change the composition of the speaking and the participating, and they were saying try to get it from 98 to more like 60-40. And I think that is perfect. You might even end up with a higher percentage of participation. And I will say that today we ended up talking at you, you know, more than you normally would when you're engaging in liberating structures, only because we needed to teach you about it. So today isn't the best example of a good percentage. So that's excellent.
All right, I think we're going to move on to our question and answer portion. Just real quick, as a reminder, after this webinar is completed, we will send you an email that has an evaluation survey included, and also you'll get the webinar recording within about a week. So I'm going to open it up to Hallie now. Did you collect any questions that you'd like to ask?
So here's a good one. So in this COVID-19 era, we are living in an age with a lot of check-in meetings. So the question is, do you have suggestions for liberating structures that would help make sure that these very frequent conversations are a good use of everybody's time? Sometimes they're daily, sometimes they're weekly.
Yeah, so I think if you're doing these short meetings and their daily check-ins, it might be good to use something like the impromptu networking that we use today, because I would assume that maybe building that rapport with each other on a daily basis, getting the conversation ball starting, might be really important. So even if one person takes sort of the prompt or the invitation question as owner and starts impromptu networking on these daily check-ins, might be helpful. And it's a basic one you could do.
And I've got another idea. When you're trying to build rapport, it can be really fun to do one, like there's one called Drawing Together. And if you don't know, Zoom actually has a function with a whiteboard, and you could ask a question, or even just as simple as, how are you feeling today? Everybody draw something on the board that and have someone share the screen. There's a lot of things you can do with Drawing Together, which could be quite fun. And there's also a Google tool. Now I'm blanking on the name of it. Melanie, we just talked about that the other day. You and I did. Anyway, check out your Google tools. There's a tool, Jamboard. Thank you. I said it to you the other day to introduce you to it. Yeah, Jamboard. And so you might want to try that as well if you have access to that.
Awesome.
Any other ones?
I'm going to pose on the fly here, just based on some of the comments that have been popping into the chat. It seems like people are really interested in this, and they're kind of ready to learn more. Like, how do they dig deeper into this? So obviously going to the website, checking out the app. Do you have any suggestions for somebody who's totally new to this? What's a good next step after this webinar today to learn more?
That is the perfect first step, is go to that website. It's so complete, and read all the background material. Make sure you really take the time, read the history, you know, click on the links. Where did this come from, and where has it been successful, and what is it all about? what was in their head when they were developing it.
Yeah.
All that stuff will really help you, as you delve into it.
Yeah, and one of the things I'd like to add is it took some time, and we have experienced these, we've used them, but until you actually start getting in there and just trying them out in a safe place, even within your department, it is a little bit high level conceptual when you're just reading about them. So I definitely recommend just taking a very basic one stepwise, trying it out with a partner or your team in a safe place, and you'll really understand very quickly how it can be useful to you. There's also apparently a Slack channel of community of practice users. I believe you can find the Slack link on the website. So you can also partner with people from around the world, and they also have a community of practice that meets on a regular basis, and try it out with international users.
Absolutely. There's a lot of them out there. And the other thing you can do is contact either Melanie or myself or one of your colleagues who has been to the training and brainstorm. That's the best way. Brainstorm and figure out what to do next.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Hallie.
There's a question here from Nancy. Can you demo that now? Can you clarify what you're referring to?
I believe she was referring that came in with the drawing tool.
Okay.
Oh, let's see if we can get that. There, that's what we're looking for. It's just one of the options as you go to share your screen fresh, you're just doing a new share. One of the options, instead of choosing a window that's actually on your desktop, then you just choose black or whiteboard. It's right there.
Yeah, and we saw Keith, actually the author, use this with a group online during a Liberating Structure, where they had sort of this triangle with different lenses, I guess, that they were looking through, and they had people sort of stamp where they were at on the triangle so that they could quickly indicate where maybe the heat was for these lens perspectives that they were discussing. So that would be like, you would set up that slide in advance, and you would have each user just sort of stamp their, whatever it is, an arrow or a heart or whatever.
Well, this has just been terrific. Thank you all for your time. We're really glad that you're here, and we wish you a lot of good success with using Liberating Structures.
Yes, thank you so much.
And be safe, everyone.